Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Titanic Read. I am your host, ReadQ7, and I have with me my co-host. How's it going, Alice?
It is going so good. What a beautiful Monday. Um,
What a beautiful Monday.
the I love my favorite time of year is the summer solstice. I love just the sun being out constantly. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. My take is less nuanced, but I've been loving the weather, and I just played 2 straight games of soccer, so life is great.
Hell yeah.
All right, so we had a pretty significant, I guess, last couple of weeks, and Titan is unstoppable. It's actually insane sort of results it's been putting up. And we'll talk about the results in a bit. But first, I just want to talk about like the general list and how I don't know, like it feels like our lists are so similar. What is your take on that?
Yeah, so we have had pretty different lists. Like I would say we were like 10 cards different in our lists. And we both roughly made changes to end up at the exact same list for pretty independent reasons. We were both poking at each other like, I think you're playing the wrong card here, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not like we were trying to run the same list for the sake of running the same list. We were running the same list because we were both coming to the same conclusions.
Yeah,
Um,
it
Go ahead.
was it was interesting. Like these stock ups, like I definitely was it's like I don't know. I have to like cut so many cards from my main board to put stock up in, but then like game by game, I'm like, you know what would be nice here? After playing all these hate cards, I really wish I could refill my hand. After mulliganing so hard, and these fire spouts just aren't performing so well. So it's really interesting to. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but I don't know. It was just crazy how we sort of converged on the same thing.
I actually think that was the initiating event that caused this to happen. Was you sent a message in our Discord that was like, um, has Firespout just like not been hitting for y'all? And like I just had so many games against Boros Energy where like you have a Firespout in your hand and you lose the game.
Yeah,
Um,
and I
I
think that
think that
the
go
conversation
ahead,
always
man.
detracts from instead of should we be playing the sweeper into oh you're playing the wrong sweeper, you should play this sweeper instead.
Yeah.
And that's how like we get caught in this loop all the time of like is the sweeper actually good, and then you're like just switch it if you don't know if it's good. So
I think there have been moments where the sweepers have been good, but we'll talk about this more
mhm.
when we get to the like meta breakdown section. But I think that Boros is being built to be resistant to sweepers because they don't have Flage anymore, right? So they have to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I saw that you had been playing 7 bounce lands before, and I've been playing
Mhm.
6 for a while. What sort of made you make that switch in this most recent challenge, and did you like it?
Yeah, that was huge. So in the I had a Gruul Turf over a Crumbling Vestige. And the thing about Crumbling Vestige is the land is just like so busted. Like you it's like a soul land that doesn't have any of the soul land problems. It just like makes your green pip on turn one. All the
Mhm.
other soul lands don't do that. What does Eldrazi Temple do? It does not do that. And I played an RCQ where I just absolutely flooded on bounce lands like 3 games in a row. And I was like, this was happening to me. And I ran a bunch of like hypergeometric math and it just like made sense that I was flooding. So you have been telling me, that 6 lands has been correct for a long time now. So I tried it and I don't think there were moments where I was like, I need to top deck a bounce land here. And what ended up happening, I went back through the challenge and like watched this opinion. What ended up happening was sometimes I didn't draw the bounce land, but I was still able to find another way to win. So
Yeah. Which, yeah, a lot of the time you have this mindset of like, oh, I need to draw the bounce land immediately, and we'll talk more about this later. Um,
mhm.
but it is kind of cool that we came to the same list. However, disclaimer: I do not advocate whatsoever for only playing this list. I really hope people are trying different stuff. We're only a month out of the ban. Um, I saw someone saying like in the Amulet Discord, like, oh, it's really unhealthy if we all just, follow specifically Reed's list right now. And I completely agree with that. I am on board with that. Try new stuff, make things happen. Um, I can't see everything. My list is performing pretty well, but I'm sure there's a better list to be found. However, this one's pretty good. Uh, this last week, I had. Okay, not just in a week. Starting June 4th, I 5-0'd my first whatever after the bans. And I was like, let's go. This is sweet. And then I proceed to top 8 a challenge and 5-0 another league without stopping, without like any leagues or games in between. And not only that, but right after that after that 5-0, I get first place in a challenge just like all straight in a row. So my record was like absolutely unreal. My elo was unreal. And then I had a couple more leagues and one more challenge where like, I did okay, just sort of regular results, like 2-3 or 3-2, stuff like that. And that'll happen. But then I jumped right back into it and had a challenge split just like 2 days ago or something. Which like all that within the space of 10 days has been absolutely unreal. And the list feels very, very, very powerful. And we'll talk more about like why maybe we think the list is powerful at the moment, but just feels really good. I saw somebody so there's a big tournament in Bologna, I think it is. They have a modern tournament. There's some like 200, 300 people there. And I saw the first place winner got first place with like my old list with the fire spouts. So exact same main deck, exact same sideboard that I used to be playing. And so there's just another sort of result that's been put up that the list is good. So I'm gonna take a moment. You guys can skip this on the podcast if you want, but I'm gonna plug my cyborg guide. If you want to start doing really, really well with Titan, I have a complete cyborg guide that is finished. It currently is running the fire spouts. The switch to stock up will take a little while for me to update, but I'm going to start working on it literally tonight. But I think that you can sort of, by process of elimination, look at the old cyborg guide and like determine, maybe you at least know which cards to take out. So I have a cyborg guide out for people, and it would be very nice, or it's the best way to support the show and my stream at the moment. So if you want to do well, it's pretty good. And I've been getting really good feedback on it. But yeah, that aside, going back to, general podcast discussion, it wasn't just me that had good results in the last week. How have you been doing, Alice?
So yeah, I mean, I had a 5-0 like last week. I then like didn't play Titan for a week. I just wanted to take a break. And then I had an RCQ where I just got destroyed. And I was like, after the RCQ, I was like, what is wrong with my list? And I made the changes that we discussed earlier. And then I same day went into a challenge and I was like, all right, we'll vibe through this challenge. And I got 4-0 almost like trivially, like 4-0 in the challenge, just like no speed bumps, like right to 4-0. It was crazy. Eventually that challenge ended up, we ended up splitting the finals, made it all the way to the finals. And honestly, the top 8 was easier than the Swiss, I would say. Yeah, I don't know.
Just like less pressure or something, like no timer. What was that? Also, is the
there
timer
no
in
timer?
paper hard? Yeah, top 8 usually no timer, right? Oh, you're talking about
No.
Moto.
Yeah. No, but the reason is I faced into the mirror, and I used to feel that I like was a bad mirror player, and then me and my friends have been grinding the mirror like endlessly,
Oh,
and
nice.
I feel like I've gotten a lot better at the mirror, as much as you can get good at the mirror. So I wasn't worried about the mirror, and then got paired into Jeskai Energy, and I do think that our deck list is just like it is constructed to destroy that deck.
Yeah.
It's like every time they play a consign, I think to myself, that could be an Ocelot Pride. But it's not, it's a consign. Yeah.
So yeah, I was watching. That was my entire evening last night. Was like, Alice started out by streaming on the Discord, and then I'm like, you should stream on Twitch. People would like this stuff, and so we like quickly set it up like mid second round or something, and I get some viewers, and I like put it on my TV, and I'm like on my recliner or whatever watching. It was great. It was a really it was a really fun challenge the whole way through, and yeah, Alice ends up splitting it. So we have a challenge win and two challenge splits all within a week. I mean, it's insane. If I had to recommend like one, quote unquote stock deck list, which we're trying to steer clear of, then I would recommend this at the moment. Or for
It's
people that are,
interesting.
go ahead.
I'm not sure I agree with this point that like, oh, it would be bad if everyone was playing the read list. Like, I'm a believer that there usually is just an optimal list.
Okay.
And I do feel that this is pretty close to the optimal list. I have a lot of reasons that I feel this. I think the main argument I have is that this list is just really similar to the pre-ban list.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone can agree that the pre-ban list was just broken in half.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my main philosophy on this.
Yeah, I'd like to
They're
go
just
down that road a bit of like
yeah.
why what's also similar. So for audio only listeners, we have the old 3 Rumble, 3 Green Suns, and 3 Titan. Uh, I can't make decisions split. But really, it's really good. It's just enough of like each piece that you'll need within the course of a game, and you only really want to see one of each of those cards within the course of a game. That having 3 of each is just absolutely perfect. I've really been liking it. Though Alice was playing 4 in the challenge winning list. 4 Rumble.
I'm pretty certain the fourth Rumble is correct.
Rumble's been
The
so
more I've been
cracked in half. It's
analyzing,
so insane.
yeah, the more I've been analyzing Rumble lately, I really do think the card is at its floor. It's like Impulse, right? Its floor
Yep.
is Impulse, which is like a completely fine magic card, right? But its ceiling is so absurdly high of just like it is just Ancestral Recall. Um, and truthfully, its floor is even better than Impulse. Its floor is Impulse and it ramps you.
Yeah.
Um,
Impulse plus a
and like
spawn.
we don't have Lotus Field anymore, right? So there's often a problem with like getting to that 6 mana breakpoint for Titan, where like a lot of the times we used to get to that breakpoint by just like playing a Lotus Field. Like you have 3 mana, you'd play a Lotus Field, right? We can't do that anymore. So I've really been finding that the spawn is like very critical for getting to the breakpoints. I don't know if you've also been finding this. I don't know.
Yeah, every time that I cast Rumble, I very much need the spawn. I very much need the additional card. It's just been absolutely fantastic. I can't say though that every time I've had 2 Rumbles in hand, I've necessarily been happy with having both Rumbles. Like sometimes it just feels like you're doing too little. You're not progressing enough. So I'm still trying to debate between 3 and 4 for myself. I am very tempted by 4, but I'm trying to be cautious about it.
So I think the like 3 versus 4 argument is like true about expensive cards, right? Like
Hmm.
having 4 Titan means that sometimes you draw 2 Titan in your opening hand and you're looking at it and you're like, well, this is a mulligan.
Hmm.
Whereas like a hand that has 2 Mumble in it, like just cast both the Mumbles, right? Like it's not the end of the world. I had a bunch of double Mumble hands in this challenge, and actually what often ended up happening was Mumble didn't find me the card I needed. But then the second Mumble, it like always does, you know.
Hmm.
That's just so many looks to find the card you need. Um, so
And then with the Green Suns, I see a lot of people say that I need to be playing 4 Green Suns. And the reasoning behind that makes sense, right? So our deck is constructed around Scapeshift. We've already said this on the podcast a few times. Scapeshift's the most important card you could possibly be playing. And in order to liven up Scapeshift, in order to make it function the way we want it to recently, it's pretty important that you have some sort of alternate threat in your hand on the small land scenarios, which are the main scenarios you're going to see over the course of a game. I have not had so much of a problem having a threat in my hand, and I don't think that I've ever been like, man, I should really add a green silence. I'm not able to find a threat. I think if I wasn't playing Rumble, I'd have a real hard time finding threats, but because I have the Rumble, things just pan out pretty easily. Sometimes I'll even scape shift without knowing that I have a threat, Rumble into my threat, and then win the game. That's pretty greedy. That falls within the Titanic greed name of our podcast, but it works a lot of the time. So I've just found that okay. My conjecture here is I think Green Suns has become a lot weaker after the ban, and it just kind of sucks a lot of the time. A lot of the time. It's still a pretty important card to play in your list, but I don't like seeing it as much as I used to like seeing it when we had Lotus Fields in our deck. Lotus Field was able to bridge that, 6 to 7 gap way more often, where the bounce lands just can't do that. The bounce lands are like, I am an increment of 2, and you will get increments of 2 over the course of your game. You will not get the 7. And so, I don't know. What's your thought there?
Um, we argue about this all the time. I am a big believer in Green Sun. The thing is, I agree with you that I think playing 4 is wrong. I think Green Sun is awkward enough that the 4th will cause you to flood on it, and sometimes flooding on it is just death. But here's the problem. Green Suns is a necessary evil because the alternative way we would build the deck is unacceptable.
Yes.
The alternative way we would build the deck is we would put 4 Cultivator Colossus into our deck.
I don't
Can
know
you
about that one.
imagine top picking that?
I don't
Right?
think I agree with this at all, but yeah. I guess, yeah, I
Well,
see your point. I would put packs in. Like, I would put an extra pact and maybe add, like, Rumble Titans. So instead of 3 Green Suns and the Dryad Arbor, I'd replace Dryad Arbor with Forest. Then I'd put Pact, Rumble, Titan. Sorry, Pact, Rumble, Titan, and then maybe 1 Green Suns for good measure is probably what I'd do.
I think this is absolutely going to kill you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty bad. This
So
main board has been very consistent for many months for me, so I don't
okay,
feel
so
like
like
giving it
you
up.
think that you think that putting a pact is like a substitute for Green Sun. One, that
Okay.
pact can never be a grazer, right? There's a lot of board states where like spending 2 mana to get a grazer, absolutely game winning, right?
Yeah,
Like imagine you're staring down a frog and you're just like, if I have a grazer, I time walk them.
that's
I
very
spend
true.
2 mana, I time walk them, right?
I agree with this.
Pact can never do that. On top of that, there into aggro, paradoxically, there's a lot of places where like Pact is like so terrible. Imagine you're staring down a Ranger Captain. Well, no, Pact is pretty good in Ranger Captain. But like
Yeah,
Orange Chant, right? Like you can have Green Suns, and it's just like so hard for your like Chant opponent to like do something about it, assuming you're like not gonna die. Um,
basically what I
yeah.
want is a pact, but you don't have to pay the mana cost in it. So, and you also don't have
Yeah,
to
there's
pay
a
the
reason they
tax
don't
for
print this
Green
card.
Suns. Okay.
There's a reason they don't print this card. As it is, Green Suns is like probably ban worthy. Like I don't think it should have been unbanned.
It's a
at
little
all.
crazy.
But,
It's pretty strong.
yeah.
I don't know. So those are I just don't like paying the tax. I like having the deck be giga streamlined. I get to cast all my spells exactly the turn I want to cast them. Most greedy possible, please. Um, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think let's take a break about talking the list here because we can talk about this all
Sure.
day. And we could like go over your challenge since it was just yesterday. Like if you just have
Mhm.
some thoughts on that and like how it went.
Yeah. Let me pull up my notes 1 sec.
I got it here.
Okay,
I got it here.
so I actually got it. You can close it.
All right, sounds good.
So okay, first match get paired into prowess. Um, I'd actually like to talk about the prowess match for a second.
Sure.
So 2 weeks ago, we were like dooming to each other, like, oh my god, the prowess match is so impossible. How is our like amazing combo deck dying into the aggro deck? That's not how things should work. And lately, my win rate into prowess is like crazy. Like it's like 80%, something like that, which is
Yeah.
just like, what
Yeah,
the
same
fuck?
here.
That's not how it should be. I think there's like two things that have like come into this. I think we've adapted to the new list, which has like allowed us to see more wins. I don't know if you agree with that. And I
Yeah.
think go ahead.
I
Uh,
think particularly cutting bounce lines has kind of helped my equity. The second I cut bounce,
Whoa.
like the second I copied Mistaken's base, I was like, oh yeah, Prowess is way easier because I don't have these situations where I'm like, oh, I can't cast Scapeshift this turn because I have too many bounce lands that are bouncing all my lands back to hand. And then like the second I try to go for like
Hmm.
a big bounce land play, I get consigned. Like I feel like playing less plays around
Oh
consignment,
wow.
as well as the Trinisphere. Obviously, like Trinisphere is pretty huge.
Well, okay, that's a different discussion. I want to keep talking about this. This is like something I had not considered at all. This is very interesting. My
Okay.
prediction going into this would be that cutting bounce lands made us worse into prowess. So
Hmm.
because like you do need to like get to high mana values to beat prowess. Like their deck is so efficient, right? That the way that you beat them is you make more mana than they do.
Do you feel like you mulligan more against Boros or Prowess?
Boros, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Prowess is less of a mulligan matchup. Therefore, bounces aren't as high equity as they are against something like Boros.
I don't understand that argument. That
Because
seems like a
the
nonsense
low
argument.
mulligan, yeah, I guess it could be nonsense, but like my thought is the low mulligan uh hands are the ones where you want the bounce lands, and the ones where you don't have to mulligan as much are ones where you just want to like go quote
Oh.
unquote wide on
Mhm,
your lands. You want your lands to go wide so that you're able
mhm.
to scape shift and you know cast spells on the following turn after you get consigned.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was very instructive. The other part of this that is kind of obvious is that Trinisphere is just like a hilarious house. It's just, or like truck into prowess. Like you
Yeah.
cast Trinisphere and the game is over in like 95% of games. Maybe it's 90%. I don't know. Like I had a hilarious league match today where I lost game one and I felt like I was still going to win the match.
It's so
And then
funny.
I did win the match.
So you might look at this list and be like, 3 Trinisphere, that's pretty excessive. And I'll be honest, it is excessive. It is like, you know, actively kind of dumb to put 3 in, like 3 whole slots just towards Trinisphere. However, drawing it just shuts down your both your Ruby and your Prowess opponent so
Yeah.
fully that I think it's completely worth a slot. If you can turn a what 60% matchup into a 90% matchup with 3 cards, I am happy to do that, especially one that's so popular like Prowess. Like Firespout doesn't do that. Firespout turns your, you know, 50% matchup into like a 55% matchup. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I actually think that the biggest innovation that caused this list to be like solidified for me was the removal of Firespout.
Yes.
Because once we don't have Firespout, we have all of these more slots. We no longer have to like, well, okay, I'm gonna like not play the sideboard card, and if I hit that matchup, I'll like have significant equity loss into that matchup. No, we just get to play all of the good sideboard cards, and now we have answers for every single deck, which is crazy.
Tell me what you think about this Firespout opinion. Ready? So I tried to explain this to someone else today. They
Mhm,
asked, why did you cut Firespout? Wouldn't Firespout be good into the current builds that have more creatures? My answer
mhm,
was, I think so. Boros loses Flage, right? Flage is gone completely. Boros now has 4 more slots that they can put cards in. And they put 4 more creatures in, right? They put like 4 Voice of Victory or Ranger Captain, something like that. The majority of Boros lists have been doing this to where there's 4 more creatures. This may not sound like a lot, but post board, they have less main board slots to cut. Like they're not cutting their Flages anymore to put in more hate. They are
mhm.
bringing in less hate, and they still leave in all the creatures because all the creatures are still so good against you. So now you're dealing with um, less hate than we used to in previous iterations when we were playing Firespout, and more creatures. And you might think, okay, Firespout covers the entirety of the creatures. The issue is the play pattern of the Boros player. The Boros player in today's iteration has their first wave of creatures. They put down a couple creatures and they don't need a lot for it. It can be a guide and a voice of victory that will kill you. It could be 2 Ocelot Prides that will kill you in like 3
Sometimes a
turns.
single Ocelot Pride will kill you.
Sure, yeah.
Unironically.
And all they have to do is sit back, hold up their interaction, and then leave a second wave of creatures in their hand. And their plan is you try to deal with their first wave, they, spend a whole bunch of hate at you, and then they put down their second wave, and you can't beat the second wave because you got 2 hated out of the game. As opposed to previous builds where it really was just the Boros player doesn't have that many creatures, and they have to put down their first wave to apply some amount of pressure, and then they hold 5 interaction spells in their hand. And so we had to have Fire Spout at that point because you would sweep them, then they're like stuck on all interaction spells, and you're like, haha, screw you, I play 6, or I play stock up, it was just a different plan back in the day, and I think currently that the sweeper not dealing with a second wave is a big deal. So maybe this is hyperbole, but I think it does play. It's important to think about their game plan and what they've been doing recently, and that's what they've been doing to me.
Yeah. All right, I agree with that. Let's go back to the challenge. So the reason that I started this discussion was my first round was prowess, and genuinely it was the freest match of Magic I've had in ages. Like, what did I do? I had double amulet in game 1, and then I cast Titan and they died. And then what did I do in game 2? Well, I had double amulet and I cast Titan and they died. I also think I had a Trinisphere. So they had a consign in hand and they just couldn't do anything about it. All right, so that was my game 1 or my match 1. Match 2, get paired into Burn. Burn is sort of back. I think it's probably 2 or 3% of the meta, maybe 1% of the meta. I don't know. I play it now and then. And I 3-0'd Burn. I trivially double amulet killed them. I actually took 17 damage on purpose. They had Eidolon and the Roiling Vortex, and I just took the damage because I was going to go to 1, and then I gained infinite life. Hilarious, right?
I stopped watching on game 2 because I was like, oh yeah, you got the win, I'm gone. And then I come back to game 3. What do you mean?
Yeah. I had a moto thing where I accidentally passed through the turn, and I was in the middle of my infinite combo, and so I fizzled. Hilarious. Anyway, and then I just trivially win game 3 as well. I think game 3 I won with Trinisphere. That's another thing about a little hidden benefit of Trinisphere. I think it's good into Burn.
I don't remember that. Did that actually happen? Because I think you ended up with only 1 Trinisphere that you put in, right, in that matchup. You were you're working through it. Maybe you did. I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, I don't remember Burn matchups that much because they're not very memorable. But anyway, I do. Okay, that's Burn.
You won a double amulet. I remember now. I specifically remember it was a double amulet, just insane opener that just destroyed.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, the next match is Storm. I personally do not like facing Storm very much. I find the play pattern pretty miserable, where it's just you just watch them fizzle. That's the game you're playing. They had such an absurdly powerful hand, and they fizzled. Game 1. I was just how is your deck do this? And the answer is that their deck is seriously very random, and if you have 2 or 3 random things go wrong for you in a row, you just fizzle. Play Titan instead of Storm, everyone. But anyway, so, and then of course the other miserable part of the Storm matchup is that, well, okay, you go to your sideboarding games, and now the mulligan algorithm is hope you hit your Trinisphere, and game 2 I mulled to 4. None of my hands were even remotely keepable.
Wow. Okay, yeah, then you mulled a 4, yeah.
Yeah, and I did my 4 didn't have a Trinisphere, and I didn't draw a Trinisphere, and I died. And game 3, well, I mulled once, I mulled to 6. Oh, look, it had a Trinisphere in it.
I think it was a turn 2 as well.
Yes, it was a turn 2 Trinisphere, yeah. And of course, they actually never cast another spell.
Yep.
The Storm matchup was so rancid.
I feel like the
Yeah.
brood scale players are stealing our tech of playing Trinisphere, and now it's like all the rage in their community as well.
Oh, really?
I
I
think
didn't
so,
know
yeah.
this.
So it might
Yeah,
just completely
interesting.
hate Prowess and Storm out of the meta, and we won't have our fun matchups anymore. I like playing against Storm recently.
Are you kidding me?
It's not that bad. Like, it's fine, you know. You don't have to think that hard, at least. It's not affinity. Oh.
I like thinking. That's the reason I play Magic.
Yeah.
All right, all right. That's interesting. If genuinely, if everyone plays, okay, so that's actually a good point. So I've been playing quite a bit of Broodscale, and I do think that one of Broodscale's worst matchups is Prowess. And so
Mm.
if they do adopt the Trinisphere tech, that could actually lead to Prowess becoming better at dealing with Trinisphere. There are ways that Prowess could tech to deal with Trinisphere. I would potentially look into playing like bounce spells.
Yeah, they play like Into the Floodmaw or something.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be kind of
Um,
annoying. At least they get
yes.
1/1 fish, and maybe with our amulet it untaps, you know? That'd be nice.
Oh, yeah, that'll save us.
But then they play
The next
Boomerang
turn they
Base. I think
untap
it's
and burn
Boomerang
us to death.
Basics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably just Boomerang Basics.
Probably.
If they play Boomerang Basics, do they play Storm Chaser's talent? Probably not.
But I have seen builds of Prowess with Storm Chaser's talent plus like the lessons thing where they do academic dispute and then fetch
Mhm.
random stuff out of their sideboard. That was
Yep.
crazy. But then I Trinisphered them and they died.
Yeah. I suspect that even if they went down this path, like the problem is they have to spend 3 mana to bounce Trinisphere to your hand,
Yep.
and then they don't have the mana to do the prowess thing, so you just recast it and they die.
And it's
So
it's pretty feasible a lot of the time to like Myco Center Trinisphere on a turn where you're not really doing too much, or to like on their upkeep, shifting
mhm.
woodland up a Trinisphere that's already been destroyed. It's pretty funny. Or like one that gets milled with your Malevolent Rumble.
Yep,
I've
for
had that
sure.
happen.
All right, so that was the storm matchup. And then I play Jeskai Energy. Strong player, by the way. I have played this player many times in previous challenges. Usually a Boros player. Like I went into the match, I was like expecting to see Boros. And then game one, we see it's Jeskai. Main deck consigned, by the way. I don't remember a lot of these specific matches. Like I remember we end up playing in the semis. I remember that match pretty well. I um I just cast Cultivator. One of the things is this Jeskai Energy deck, like it's running Consign, but Consign just like does not stop Cultivator. Like they have so many things they need to consign. By the time that you have the Cultivator, they're just dead. Like
Okay.
there's no way they have a consign in their
I,
hand.
I agree,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Um, and you know they're running like a bunch of Thraben charms, so you can like almost never do the analyst thing. You have to click the cultivator button first.
Yeah,
That being said,
I have
I
been
do think
pressing Cultivator so much. Not just because I'm lazy, but
yes.
because it is just scarier to go for the analyst line than the Cultivator line a lot of time recently. And Cultivator
Yeah.
just does its job very well. And then you can analyst later, and then you don't really care if they
Mhm.
exile your graveyard at that point because you have so much advantage. So
Well, most of the time, like you cultivator, and then from that point, like you'll just be able to restart the loop the second they try to do anything. I had a lot of matches this challenge where it was just like, okay, well, I've cultivated, I have a GSC in my hand, I find Titan, I get shifting woodland, then I play my analyst, GG. I'll just restart the loop.
yep.
Um, I will say I have actually been missing Vesuva in
Have
these
you?
positions.
Okay.
And not enough to play it, of course, but uh, Vesuva was really good in these kind of positions where there was going to be a big battle over your yard
Mhm.
because you would like make a copy of Shifting Woodland, um, and then you could restart the loop twice. And like, um, I did lose a match on the ladder the other day because they just had two pieces of graveyard hate and I couldn't fight through both. So
Could you have won an alternative way by putting more fatties into play before you try to go for graveyard?
They had like 40 cats. It was ridiculous.
Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Like, because what I find is that a lot of play patterns pre Lotus Ban were go for analyst first and then go for your fatties. And I've been
Mhm.
finding recently that it is more beneficial to go for the big guys first, particularly cultivator, maximize that as much as possible to the point where your analyst like sort of matters because it does win you the game that turn, but it doesn't matter that much. If they get rid of it, they've gotten rid of their Thraben Charm. They can't Thraben Charm like a Mirror Pool attempting to copy Titan or a Mirror Pool attempting to copy Colossus. Like they can't Thraben Charm that anymore. So you've played around them because they just had no window because you played the fatties first. So I have been like Titan Colossus first and Analyst later.
Mhm.
And that's been working super
This
well for me.
this is what I was doing pre-ban, actually.
Okay.
Like, I would do this a lot. You know, I was a big cultivator fan before the ban. Um, I think this is just the correct way to play Titan, actually. We're just
Mhm.
like cultivator is like an absolutely impossible card to interact with.
Yeah.
There's like 2 cards in the game that interact with it.
But
Force of
then if
Negation and Consign,
if
right?
you suspect Consign, then you probably go for Analyst instead.
Yeah. Um, which is part of the reason that I don't think Lumra is viable, because you
It's
really
both.
need that axis
Yeah.
of like, my opponent is holding up Consign. I will like play slower and go for the analyst build instead.
Yeah, because your opponent
Um,
could either consign you or Thraben Charm you. I think
yeah.
Colossus might be bad line to go.
Yeah, but also like there's a lot of decks that don't play Consign, right? They're not
Mhm.
if they're not playing blue, if you ever get a cultivator, the game instantly ends, right? Like it is literally a card that says you win the game.
Right.
You're gonna have to click like 1,000 more times, but okay. So yeah, that was that energy match. Interestingly, we see that there wasn't very much hate. There was hate, but it was mostly in the form of consign. So that's gonna like really come up in the semis match. Yeah. Okay. So, oh my gosh, this brute scale match was peak. Golly. So game one, my hand is so good. My hand is Saga Amulet. It's got a Beseiju in it too against Brood Ooh, baby. I'm feeling like there's no chance I can lose this game. I play Saga Amulet. I go to my turn 2. I play Beseiju. Ooh, I'm on the play, by the way, as well. And my opponent goes to their turn. They have a forest and a blade on the battlefield. They go to their turn. They play Ugin's Labyrinth. They imprint. They play Brood Scale. And then they play
Equip Lista? That's the only one I can think of.
yeah, they equip the blade and then they play Walking Ballista.
Yeah.
And that starts the loop, and then they Emrakul me. Turn 2'd by Brood Scale.
Insane.
Turn 2'd on the draw. It was so peak.
I wasn't there for that game, but that's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. So and the thing is that like if that hadn't happened, I'm
Mhm.
almost certain I would have won this match. Like my hand was so good. I don't know how Brood Scale was supposed to deal with it game one on the play. I had to get turn 2, so that's how they beat you. With that being said, I do actually think that like our sideboarding strategy. Ooh, we should discuss this.
Okay.
Our sideboarding strategy into Brood Scale is interesting. Like I have had the opinion for about a year now that like the optimal way to fight Brood Scale is to just like play hard control. Um, Mostly because of the like cultivator colossus angle, where like as we were discussing earlier, like they're not a consigned deck. They just lose to cultivator colossus. So if you ever get there, you win. So this has also been informed by there's a really strong brood scale player in Portland named Jeff, and we fight all the time. And he thinks that this is the optimal strategy for fighting for Titan to take as well. And so, what is the control plan? You might be asking. It's something like what Reed is doing here, where you take out all of your Saga. They have an endless Saga hate. It's like a lot of their decks will have like 8 Disenchant, which is just like, how can they afford to play 8 Disenchant? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but they can somehow. and so you just can't have Saga. And so how do you play control? Well, you need to have card draw. So that's where Stonkler comes in. You're going to basically like you just want to cast card draw every single turn. I also bring in 6, by the way, 6 and Soulguide Lantern.
I'm not a fan of these at all, but yeah.
Really? Okay.
No.
It depends on the brood scale build. But like if they're playing the like 8 Disenchant version, you don't want 6. Why would you not want 6?
So, yeah, I get that the Disenchant, but they have Might, which is like an exile effect, and by the time you land 6 and you're able to discard a land and all that going on, you have to have stocked up, and then just casting 2 3-mana spells. I don't like that combination. I think stock up basically does 6's job, but better in this matchup and faster than 6 does it. Like this is finding the extra piece, as opposed to this is making you discard, and also is like board presence is super insignificant against brood scale, and a lot of the time they'll have something that will block 6 effectively, so you can't really use 6 to its full potential. I don't like it.
Okay, so let me continue talking about the strategy.
Yeah.
So when you analyze brood scale as a deck, they basically have 2 ways of killing you. 2 ways of killing Titan. I'll say that. One of the ways they can kill you is with the combo, and then the other way they can kill you is with Emrakul. And so if you have access to Bog and a Dismember, they basically can't win. Eventually they will cast Emrakul, they will find their K commands eventually. But a lot of the time, you are just going to play like 10 turns of Magic. And that's why I like 6. Like on the game states where like you are gonna play 10 turns of Magic, 6 is a truck. That's exactly what it's designed for. So I cut a Gruul Turf because they have Damping Sphere a lot of the time.
Okay, yeah, that makes a fair amount of sense.
Yeah. So yeah. So your like ideal brood scale hand is like 4 lands, stock up, dismember Bog, something like that. Like that is like actually a really incredible hand to that. They will probably kill you if they have K commands, but the thing is that's always how their deck works, right? Like if they have multiple K commands, they're the most powerful deck in all of Modern, right? Like having multiple K commands is like arguably better than having multiple amulets, like in a lot of board states. So, and their K commands need their like ramp lands too. So it's like the board states where they have multiple K commands, they also need so much other stuff going right for them that like you're gonna die. Don't worry.
And I mean, we saw that yesterday. Like when your opponent didn't have something to play on end step like K command, you just won so hard. But then the games where they do have K command are just completely different games into brood scale. You have a much harder time. I did want to mention something about brood scale that I find interesting. If you are done with your thought,
sure. Yeah, go ahead.
The Emrakul turns are really different nowadays, so they have a pretty hard time. At least they've had a hard time against me. Like I've won 2 matches or 2 games where Emrakul resolved recently, just because they just didn't have like good ways to kill me. It was super funny, because like our whole deck is so wholesome nowadays. It's not like the old I sack all my lands and blah 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 blah. Like it just unless they can get orb, they really can't Emrakul you very effectively. And
I think that's a skill issue on the. I think the good brood scale players are going to kill you.
It really hasn't been, but it might be. It might be, but I couldn't think of a line to kill myself, so.
I would love to see that. I would love to try to solve the line of how do you die, because like my philosophy on Emrakul is every time they cast Emrakul, you are dead. Okay. Like it is just like a skill check.
I think they may have skilled out a little bit, but like on one of them, but it's like a line that no Titan player or no non-Titan player would see ever. So I think that
but given a real tournament, if you face a brood scale player that was a Titan player in the past, like this has happened to me.
I think even my chat didn't catch the line either. I caught the line, and nobody in chat got it. So it was like a Mirror Pool pact line. and you have to like go for
Hmm.
Titan, grab Pact off T West, and also somehow mirror pull it, which was possible, but it was a really
Oh,
deep line to see
okay.
because I just had too many green sources, so I could pay for Pact regardless of
Oh,
what
so you
happened.
were dead. My point is correct. You
Your
weren't
point's
just
correct.
dead. They just
Okay,
needed
but
to find the line.
the other one, I just had like these wholesome rumbles in my hand, and they're like, maybe I'll cast the rumble, I guess. Like, and they just don't select something, and it's still like
Sure,
pretty
sure.
nice. I don't know. It just wasn't bad.
Okay.
So, but yeah, continue with your challenge.
Yeah, so that was roughly the sideboard discussion. So we can go into the game. So yeah, game two, I they like interact with me a bunch, but my hand was kind of hilarious
Hmm.
where I was like, okay, well, I need top deck splunking. And that happened 2 turns in a row. I top deck splunking twice, like after they had interacted with me a bunch. And it's just like that's why this deck is so busted. Is when you top deck splunking, your deck is just like the most powerful deck in the format, I feel, in like any mid-range battle. Um,
It was fun to
I
watch you
cannot
stream
believe
and how
how.
like how much you were dooming on double amulet hands. Like I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead. And then when you anytime you saw a hand with Spelunky, you're like, we're live, we're good, and you did win those
Yes.
games. It's really funny.
Oh, it's what if your untapper wasn't card disadvantage, right? Like it's so
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Um, okay, so I actually worry about the double amulet like hands. Like you can just not draw a threat, and like splunking is going to draw you a threat.
Right.
Okay, so game two is not very interesting. Game three, oh man, it was a really fascinating game. I have been thinking about this game for like the last day. Um,
Did you take a
we
picture at any point?
no, but it isn't like it's in the VODs. You can go pull it up.
It's okay.
All right, whatever. So I had been interacted with a bunch, and ultimately we had a position where I had a 5 land 0 mana floating um, shift, and I had nothing in my yard, so I couldn't go for analyst. Like it I would have had to mill like a bunch of mana off of my analyst for it to be a loop. Um, and so I also would have had to gotten like 3 vestige bounce land T West. And it's like that's not a great cultivator to or not a great shift to try to get analyst.
Yeah.
Um and so I actually wait a turn, and then this waiting a turn ends up killing me.
Right.
Um and we went and analyzed the game afterwards, and you were like just like, well, why didn't you cast Scape Shift? And I was sitting there and I was like, well, I mean, it wasn't a win. And your point was just like, well, you should just get a Titan down. And I had considered that in the game, but I thought the Titan wasn't going to win. They had
I can explain the
Eldrazi
board state.
Temple.
I've got it
Yeah,
locked
yeah,
in my head. So they had a
sure.
Fleshraker and a what do you call it? The guy that removes something, Thief of Existence on the battlefield.
Hmm.
I think they might have had a spawn. Yeah, they had a spawn as well. They have a Saga
Hmm.
on 2. They have an Eldrazi Temple, and I think they have a Forest, if I'm not wrong.
That's correct. That's 100% correct.
So their whole board state is like super. It is explosive, Like next turn,
Yeah.
you could actually get destroyed. And if you're facing a Brood Scale player, you'll know this. I think they had stuff in their graveyard too, so like Emrakul wasn't off the table necessarily. I think
No,
it
I don't
was.
think we were close to
I
Emrakul.
don't.
I
Yeah, we're
wasn't
not
worried
quite
about that.
there. The Saga on 2 is really what should worry you because they can get Haywire Might, they can get they could get a Blade if they have the Brood Scale. They'll find
Mhm.
something to really disrupt you to the point where you probably can't win that game because they have pressure in the form of Fleshraker. In our board state, we have just enough mana to where we can get the 4 mana. We have a cave on the battlefield too, which is sort of a red herring, I think, in the case, because what are you going to cave for that's really going to be useful if you don't have any bounce lands in hand? But we have exactly 4 mana, and we can do a 4 landscape shift. We don't have any real threats in our hands. How does the 4 landscape shift net Titan? Did you have a T West? What was that?
No, no, it was a 5 landscape shift
Oh,
with
five
nothing in
lander.
hand.
5 lander,
Um,
nothing in hand.
I should
Uh,
probably post this to find a line. Maybe
yeah.
someone will find a line. Um,
So I think the best line is simply bounce T West and 6 other mana off of your 3 other lands. Cast your Titan, be happy with it. and your Titan is going to haste itself and then use the Otawara ability to bounce the Saga, which is your impending doom. Like that is the biggest,
Mhm.
possible deal on the board.
That was
And
the line I didn't see. I was looking at the Titan and I was like, well, okay, what? Like I'm gonna like Beseiju their Eldrazi
yeah,
temple, and I was like, that is pointless.
I mean, you'd
Um,
obviously want to Boseiju the Saga, but Otawaring is even better, and you're capable of doing that. So I think,
well, even Besejuing the Saga, like they
yeah.
still have, enough mana that I was really worried about what they were going to do with that. Where if you Oda the Saga, putting them down a mana just like reduces so much of their options.
So many of their options down a mana and down like a giant threat that they're gonna achieve next turn. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that was the proper play. I think we can't. I think we have been treating Titan too harshly, and it really is a great card advantage card that, especially in the early game, is just going to do a lot for you. There's definitely going to be cases on a one amulet you cast Titan where you're just like, yeah, my opponent is going to have lethal next turn, and this Titan is just not doing enough. Um, but in this case, it was like turn 3 or 4, so I think it would have been perfectly fine to escape shift for that and not wait.
I think I genuinely believe that if you don't find the Oda line there, like
The
Titan is
Titan's too
often not
weak.
going to be enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Um, well, that was very interesting. Very instructive loss, I will say. Yeah. So that was a loss. And then we go to I don't even know if I want to talk about this match.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I think this deck is so fake. Insane like cascade deck where you're cascading into Frog, but that's stupid because Frog doesn't do anything when it ETBs. What is wrong with people?
Hey, you get a
Anyway.
frog. It's the best card in modern.
Oh yeah, so true. Anyway,
They had 4 fawn, 4 subtlety. I thought it was interesting. They definitely had some cool spots. There's one spot where we
yeah.
navigate
Let's
around
talk
their
about the cool
subtlety.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so my opponent has 2 cards in hand. And they have a frog on board. Or sorry, they have 3 cards in hand and a frog on board.
Mm-hmm.
They cast Riddler. They now have 2 cards in their hand. They do not discard anything with frog. And I'm sitting there and my alarm bells are like screaming at me. Like, why did they not discard to frog? You always discard to frog when you have Riddler there. The only reason that you wouldn't do that is if your hand is blue card force or blue card subtlety. That is the only reason in that position you would ever not discard, right? And my chat is like, no, it's gonna be fine. And I'm like, no, it's
That was
not
me.
fine.
I was mainly joking, but yeah.
There were other people that were like, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, no.
Okay.
Anyway, so in my head, I'm like putting them directly on fawn or subtlety. I end up taking game actions that like pretty clearly show that it's not fawn, so it just
Yep.
like has to be subtlety.
You play Spelunking and they don't counter it, which to me that's a pretty big deal. And I think you didn't have an amulet effect at that point, so you got to
No, I
find
had
that.
like 3 amulets this game.
Oh, did you? Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I was swimming in amulets. So we're thinking like, okay, it's probably subtlety. How do we play around the subtlety here? And the answer was put in a bounce land, make 6 mana, cast Aftermath Analyst. My yard was full enough that the Analyst resolving would just be an insurmountable mana advantage for a single subtlety to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I also had a Vexing Bubble on the field. Although they did have 4 mana, so they could have hard casted it.
They can hard cast one spell. Yep.
Yep. So they're looking at the Analyst and they're like, well, if I let this resolve, I probably just lose. So they subtlety it, and we go, okay, well, I'll put it right on top, and then I'll crack Vexing Bobble, put Analyst in my hand, GSC for Grazer, get another 6 mana, cast Titan. And, at that point, they don't have subtlety. So
it's very cool.
It was very cool. That's like a great way of dealing with subtlety is you need to like find the line. I find a lot of the times nowadays there's a line around subtlety, which is crazy because like when I was starting with Titan, I just remember like my opponents would have subtlety and you would just get owned. Yep. I don't know if you agree with this, but
yep, you just get destroyed all the time.
I think a big part of that is Green Sun Zenith. Like it just allows you to have so many lines where like you can puzzle the line out. That's another reason I love the card so much.
I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah.
It does have to be in tandem with other stuff though, where they just fawn you, but that's not a big deal. I am
Well, they
excited to
don't
talk
always have
about
on, right?
the next matchup, which you got double loss on, but is like my big hang up right now is Affinity. Affinity.
Yeah.
It's like the fucking Night Fury in that one movie. Like it is so painful for me to play against recently. So I just want to talk about it and get some
Yeah.
ideas flowing.
Sure. So my opponent had like 2 affinity nut draws, basically. They were absolutely crazy hands. Game 1 was a turn 2 Kappa, um, backed by EE on 1 and Metallic Rebuke. And the crazy thing is I had 2 amulets, and I actually had lines that played through the EE, but I didn't have a line that played through EE plus Rebuke.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there was a Kappa that was like staring me down. And I'm just like, all right, well, what do I do about the Kappa? Oh, there was also a welding jar.
They had
So I
an
couldn't even.
insane hand. It was so
It,
unreal.
it was so good. That's the thing about Affinity, right? Is if you keep 7 with Affinity, there's basically no deck in the entire format that can stop you, right?
I
So
guess.
many of the Affinity 7s are just completely unbeatable. Yeah. Anyway, so I lose game 1. Game 2, they have a like another EE hand where I'm looking at the hand and it's just like I can't beat the EE. Like my hand doesn't beat EE like the last one does. And then on top of that, they like play a Blood Moon on turn 3. And I had forced. Oh, they also had Damping Sphere. So I had to like Force of Vigor, the Damping Sphere, and something else. And then on the next turn, they just play Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was really funny.
yeah. So okay, we've been discussing this, and it's like, okay, I had that sideboard game where I had Force of Vigor,
Yeah.
right? And the Force of Vigor just did not win me the game. It just didn't.
And it also put you at a card disadvantage situation where
Yeah.
you just couldn't win. And
They
I've
had
been feeling like bringing in stock up's been too slow, and like that I can't like find enough cuts to where I want to put in all my hate pieces and also stock up. It's just not. I don't know. Like the refilling strategy doesn't seem to work for me in this scenario, or doesn't click in my head
yeah, okay.
like it does in
We
other matchups.
put a pin in that discussion. I have a
Sure.
very interesting thing that we'll bring up in a second. So before we get into the interesting thing, what I want to say is I think none of the sideboard cards that people are running beat Affinity right now. So let's analyze those games from the perspective of Collector Oof, right? Like my opponent, like if I had a Collector Oof in that game too, they had a Damping Sphere, right? Like Collector Oof does not stop Damping Sphere, right? And it doesn't stop Blood Moon, right? So that would not have saved me. The Force of Vigor did not save me. I did have one, right? And so we've been thinking like, how do we beat Affinity? And one of my Twitch chatters, one of my friends, Alex, had honestly an idea that's like so brilliant that I've been thinking about it for the last day, which is just play Hercule's Recall. Apparently, you thought about this like a year ago, and then you stopped doing it.
No, it wasn't even that
I
long
didn't know about
ago.
this.
Nerd Dad Chad mentioned it in my Twitch chat, and I immediately dismissed it, and then was like, "Oh wait, hold on, let me think about this," because it's like
Mhm,
it's not on face value. It's hard to like see. It's an off color card.
mhm.
It's
It's an
weird.
off-color instant too,
Yeah.
which is like,
Um, but I had put it in for a couple games. I just put in one. I think I was talked out of it by Canister, who had some good points of like, Force of Vigor is better. However, our deck is now a lot worse against Affinity than it used to be when I had talked to Canister about this. And it might
Lotus Field
be.
was so good
It was so good.
into Affinity, right?
Yes.
Like you would just completely make enough mana in every game to just pay for the rebuke every single time.
Yeah, they put out a damping sphere like, oh yeah, escape shift. I do whatever I want, and I win the game.
Mhm.
Like if I have a pact in hand, I just get bounce beside you and a lotus, and boom, you're dead.
Yep,
Literally 3 landscape shifts, you're gone. So good.
it was crazy. Okay, so I want to analyze Hercules in the context of stock up too,
Sure.
right? So you're thinking like, okay, the stock up, it's not winning me the game. Okay. Before I talk about stock up, so the reason that I think Hercules is so crazy is it kind of answers every part of what their current kit is doing. So they have like all of these like interacting layers of permission. And it's very hard to attack all of them and also deal with the fact that this Kappa Cannoneer is going to kill you, right?
Mm.
Um, so Hercule solves all of these, right? It solves Welding Jar. Welding Jar, like, that only cares about destroy, right? It solves Damping Sphere. You put it back in their hand, it doesn't hurt you anymore. Although, how you're going to do that is a little tough.
Yeah, you have to have Vestige particularly, or one of the 2 blue lands.
Or Mycosynth Gardens.
Yeah,
Or Cave. Cave can also
that
do it.
works. Yeah.
There's ways. But it it also solves Kappa. And here's the most important part. It solves Rebuke because you do it in their end step. Or you do it in your main one, you bounce all their stuff, and then you go to your main 2, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean,
and
even if you
if you
don't win
do,
that turn, it's still kind of time walking them in a way. They don't get to attack you with the Kappa the way
Mhm.
they used to. They can't. I don't
Well,
think they
like
can
if
land
you
all the
cast a
artifacts
Titan,
they
they
wanted
just
to.
lose, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, in this matchup. So, um, yeah, so you basically have this card that answers every part of their kit except Blood Moon, but they're only running like 1 or 2 Blood Moons, so that's okay.
It doesn't
Okay,
answer Blood Moon. There's another thing that I wanted to bring up. It doesn't
sure.
answer. Let's see. It has a hard time into Damping Sphere, I would say, because of the Vestige thing. And they can always just rebuke that instead if you really have to, you know. But it is nice for forcing through stuff, and Force of Vigor has been lackluster in my experience recently
Yeah.
because they're pretty careful about playing out their sagas recently. All of their other targets are just so bad when you have Force of Vigor, except for, and they played like one wave of True Hate per turn. Like they will play the sphere one turn, having this thing that protects it, the Welding Jar, and
Mhm.
then they will wait for a future turn to play Bloodman. They won't play it on the same turn. It's pretty annoying. It's pretty annoying.
I also think the fact that Hercules is an instant allows you to play through Rebuke and them like cracking an EE. Like you can wait for the perfect time to like perfectly sequence your Hercules to bounce all their shit,
Mm-hmm.
like in the middle of their turn and stuff. It's not always going to work like this, but
There's also the fact
I
that
think
you
there'll
could
be
play multiple and you just keep doing it if you see multiple,
yeah.
which is kind of nice.
Okay. The last thing I'll say is okay. So you're saying like stock up, stock up isn't cutting it in this matchup. And my rough philosophy on stock up is that you should cast a stock up and it should basically find you the answers to win on the next turn. And the problem is in this matchup, when your stock up finds Force of Vigor, that you just like turned one card into like two into one card, right? Like you didn't actually get card advantage from it.
Okay.
Because you're gonna have to put a card into force.
Right.
So this lets you get Hercules plus the threat you need to win, and then you Hercules them in their end step, and then you win
I
on
worry
the
that
next
this
turn.
is a Christmas land argument, but
I don't think it is.
okay.
I think this is something that is going to come up. I don't know. Could be wrong. We'll have to test.
Yeah, it's
All,
just
all I
really
know is
hard to
we need to
plan all
come
the
up with some other
cuts.
plan.
I was gonna say Hercules does not deal with Emery if Emery is the bane of your existence at the moment as well.
I mean I don't agree with that. I think Hercules is really good in Emery. Roughly we disagree about this. I just don't think Emery is that big of a deal. Like their cards are so much less powerful than ours that you can just like pretty easily keep up with the card advantage that Emery does,
Yeah, my main
especially if you
hangups
cast a stock.
with Emery are them being able to hold up Metallic forever and then generate card
Mhm.
advantage without ever tapping out of Metallic, as well as EE maxing to where they like, uh, you know, they chain EEs in a way that's super frustrating for you to ever land amulets or I guess constructs
Yes.
if you're trying to go with that plan, but that's a lot more rare.
Oh my god,
But
I never construct affinity. That never works.
for me, the ability of Dismember to kill Emery in heavy Emery builds, as well as their little guy that makes a bunch of 1/1s, the whatever it's called.
Mhm.
as well
Yeah.
as Harbinger,
Critical
which I've seen
Emissary.
multiple times to play against me recently. I think that
Yeah, yeah.
Dismember is pretty good into those types of builds that are pretty all in on Emery, but you disagree.
I have not played an Affinity game in the last, like, 7 or 8 matches where Dismember would have been good.
Yeah, it probably isn't.
Mostly because I don't think that you're what are you gonna do? You're gonna play a land and pass with Dismember up? Like, what if they're on the play? You know, then they just, like, Emissary and they shit their hand out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
I think it takes a particular build of affinity for the dismember to be proper. And when I was making my cyber guide, the build was very heavy on Embry and also had other things you wanted to kill. So as well as like maybe Arcbound Ravager. I guess pretty terrible target, but maybe, you can kill that.
I mean, I would like targeting a Ravager. Often you have good targets in that kind of scenario. Or like more importantly, it like stops them from being able to Ravager correctly because like they attempt to do it and you kill the thing.
Essentially, the whole week will
Um,
be affinity testing, and if you guys have
mhm.
input, please let us know in the Discord about any possible things that you learn, because I think we just need volume of reps against affinity to be able to solve this.
If there is other sideboard cards that people have ideas for, like ping me in the Discord. I would love your thoughts. I feel kind of lost,
Yeah,
to be
same.
honest. So
Which I didn't think I would ever be against affinity. Okay,
I know, me too.
and
I need a
then
break. I'm gonna get some water.
yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
I will talk about my 6 bounces concept. Actually, no, I'll talk about Nova Suva. Ready? So I've cut Versuva from my list, and the reason for this is, well, it's very nuanced, so I'll try to go through it with you guys. And if you're a no visual listener, you got to visualize this in your head. So I'll even put it out. No, I won't. So Vesuva has some corner cases where it's nice. One of them is copying your opponent's Surveil, which is really nice. One of them is copying your opponent's green source when you yourself do not have a green source, which is really nice. And then some more important ones, which are copying Handwear when you need to cast a Titan or a Colossus and you tap your Handwear, or you just generally don't have access to it. Within the same vein is Mirror Pool. So when you're trying to Mirror Pool your Titan or your Colossus and you really need to, it doesn't work. You may think, wow, these are pretty huge, relevant arguments, because so much of the time, Vesuva is like just this nice land that'll copy your bounce land, it'll copy your forest, it'll copy your green source. And it's just like a great draw in the mid to late game. And it also does this. Okay, let me point out the bad side of it. If you have any sort of hand, like maybe a hand with, 2 vestiges, we've seen plenty of those. And they're like hands that are just good enough that you sort of have to keep it. You're like, yeah, I have like a grazer into a spelunking. Like, I kind of have to keep this hand. And you end up hitting a Vesuva, you're never going to hit that permanent green. Like, that permanent green is not going to stick around in those cases. This isn't just a vestige thing either. This is like if you have any of these colorless lands, which are so many in your deck, you really are just going to have a hard time with that. So essentially, this Vesuva is competing with your other colorless lands, Handwear, Mirrorpool Cave, Echoing Deeps, Odawara, T-West. It's competing with these very, very essential lands in your deck. None of these lands are what I'd classify under it's nice to have in the mid to late game. They classify under I need to have this to perform my necessary wins, to have a competitive deck. I need to have these cards. Except for maybe Odawara. Odawara is just pretty nice to have a lot of the time.
No.
I don't know. But these fall within that class. They fall within like S tier heavy hitter, like the monsters walking in from Monsters Inc. class. And Vesuva falls more under the, it's nice. It's a nice warm pie on a summer day. It's okay sometimes. However, the issue with it is it does not produce green when you have these hands that really have to produce green. Okay, that's a big deal. I want to, underscore that having green is pretty important in your mono green deck. Okay, now let's look at these cases and why we can argue against them. So, and I was talking to House about this earlier today, because he's trying to also understand why I do this. And he was saying, man, copying a bounce land though, like when you top deck it, mid game, or you hit it off Spelunking, you can copy the bounce land on the field. That's just so huge and important. Like, having so few bounce lands and not being able to cast Titan is just going to be really rough. And I think the counter argument here is when you're playing 3 Rumbles in your deck, you get that extra spawn and you get to hit whatever land you want, and usually that land's a soul land. If you hit Vestige, it's pretty great. Now let's say you hit, and you could probably cast Titan in that case. Let's say you hit Forest, as long as you have, if you rumble into a forest, as long as you have Scapeshift in your hand, you can get a kill on that turn. The Scapeshift will get you there. So I just think there's so many cards such as Rumble and Scapeshift that just simply get you to where you need to go without you having that additional bounce land. And that also classifies under the why are you only playing 6 bounce lands in your deck that heavily cares about having soul lands argument is because you're playing Rumble, you're able to just get away with a lot more. And you don't really notice how much playing so many bounce lands is handicapping your ability to properly Scapeshift. Like, because we played bounce lands for so long, I think we're not critically capable of seeing when it's bad. We're not, like, if we had been a deck that played 0 bounce lands and transitioned into a deck, like if bounce lands had been printed last set and somehow our deck was playable before that, I really don't think we'd be on like 8 of them right away. I think it really would be a much lighter addition to the deck because they function so badly when you're trying to cast the card Scapeshift, which is the best card in your deck after Amulet of Vigor. Yeah, these are my thoughts.
I agree completely with that. There's a lot of like Titan skill that basically comes down to like, how am I stabilizing my green production? This is a question you're basically asking yourself like every single turn.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what card stabilizes your green production really well? Forest. You know what card doesn't do that? Vesuva.
Yeah. Forest has been really, really good. Or just having 10 green sources in your deck, I think, is bare minimum. If you have 9, I really think your deck doesn't function well ever.
Scapeshift has 2 green pips, right? If you don't have double Amulet, there isn't a double green bounce land, right? Like you're only going to get 1 green pip off of that bounce land. You need to have some other way of getting green.
Yeah.
And
recently
if you're
I've been
playing
finding like hands with no like permanent green, like just green sunsing for the Dryad Arbor has actually been super useful for me.
Yeah, that has some problems, classically.
Okay, and I forgot to mention all of the counter arguments against not playing Vesuva. There is the big counter argument of I need to be able to use my Handwear or Mirror Pool if they are tapped and on the battlefield. First, they have to be tapped, and second, they have to be on the battlefield, and third, they have to actually matter. And I just don't think that comes up so much that I actually need it. Actually, there are some lines where they can be on the battlefield. You can orb them to your graveyard preemptively and go get a deeps instead, if you have orb out, I guess. But like, it's not, or like if you Scapeshift these away, like you think about your process. You're like, I'm going to put this on the battlefield so I can Scapeshift it away, and then Echoing Deeps it. But I think so. Handwear. I think there's a lot of board states where it's just not correct to Handwear your Titan. If you're against Solitude, if you're against any sort of removal, if you need to block, it's Titan being untapped is pretty good equity there. Getting 2 extra lands isn't that important. You can just, you want to set up for your win on the following turn a lot of the time in these single Amulet scenarios. So getting a bounce land and a T-West off of your Handwear line, it is not that problematic. I really think it's not that bad. Now Mirror Pool is a bit more of an ask, like when I have double Amulet, I really hope that I can, copy my Titan. When you have double Amulet, though, you have more situations where you're capable of producing more than 6 mana and not tapping your Mirror Pool. So I just haven't had it come up that much. And again, these are both corner cases. Vesuva is the corner case king and really good at dealing with all these corner cases. But since the removal of Lotus Field in the deck list, it has just less value. Like, there were so many cases where you had the Vesuva or Lotus Field or you died in the old build. And in this current build, all it's really doing, in addition to being a nice mid-game draw that copies cool lands, is like the essential scenarios are Handwear or Mirror Pool, and I don't find these to be that essential in the current build.
I have not had a single case where I've needed to Vesuva a Mirror Pool or Handwear in like 50 matches. It just doesn't come up. You can you can always think of something good to do with your time,
Yeah.
right?
I've had like one or
Um,
two, but they haven't been important to actually winning the game. I can just win the game with an alternate route, uh, and it hasn't caused me any stress. So I haven't lost a game to it. Is what I should say, to not having the
yes.
Vesuva.
Whereas Vesuva loses you games. It like genuinely is such a terrible draw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have not missed it at all. The only sense in which I've missed it is I wish I had more ability to make more shifting woodlands. But besides that, like
Especially when you
I don't
like
know.
don't have an ambit effect, top decking it's just sucks so much. It's the worst. Such a bad
Yeah.
feeling. Okay, we didn't get to the challenge yet. Let's see. So you got your water, and then the mirror. Anything interesting in the mirror? That was just sort of a interesting
Game 4, I
sequence.
had 4 amulets, which is that's how you want to play the mirror. Let me tell you what.
Yep, that'll do it.
I did the kill that a lot of people don't know, where if you have 3 amulets and a grazer, you can make 4 hasty titans. Or if you have 4 amulets, you can make 4 hasty titans with no extension. And I had 4 amulets and no extension, and you mirror pull your titan, then you echoing deeps mirror pull your titan, and then the 4th titan you get from using shifting woodland to copy mirror pool. And then you get hammer battlements and haste all of them. The reason you need extension if you have 3 is you need to bounce your handwear and then play it one final time to haste the fourth titan if you have 3 amulets. So fun little kill there. Yeah.
It was very cool. I thought, yeah, I hadn't thought of it. You could have given me a couple more minutes, and I would have thought of it. I think, but it was very cool. But I probably
It
would have
kind of
messed that
never
up.
comes up because, of course, you have 4 amulets. You're winning in 10 million other ways, but
Yeah.
it their list played endurance, so I wanted to take the line that didn't die to endurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the line. No, I had so much mana. If they had endurance to get rid of my mirror pool copy, I would have just activated again. So, yeah. Okay, so then we go into Jeskai Energy. Okay, how to speak about this game? So, game 1 was interesting. They had a pretty quick Ragavan start. I had a very good like Saga Amulet start though. I eventually get to 2 amulets. They get a pretty fast clock down, moderately fast.
Yeah.
And on turn 3 they cast Ranger Captain. And my hand did not like the Ranger Captain. It had a GSC in it. So I was trying to figure out like how do I like I've been Ranger Captained. I can't win. What do I do? I'm staring down a potentially lethal ward. I did have a Zurin orb on the field, so we like did the math and they would have put me to 0, and so I could have sacked a land to not die basically. And then won on the next turn. Ultimately, what we ended up doing was they had a Ragavan that was guide buffed. And so we bounced that to their hand. And that basically took away all of their win cons except for Goblin Bombardment. And the thing is,
We're
Goblin
not beating
Bombardment
that.
is going to kill you no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And I guess also Ranger Captain was a win con because they would have sacked it again and we would have died. So yeah, we ended up basically removing their ability to kill us, and then we untapped, and they were clearly holding up Thraven Charm, but we had a GSC, and that GSC was Cultivator Colossus. I
Perfect.
think it was a 3-lander.
Was it? How do we get away with
No,
that?
what ended up happening, I top decked Titan.
Oh.
So I cast Titan, got 2 bounce lands, and then I had a 4-land double amulet cultivator.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever fizzled on a 4-land double amulet cultivator. It's
Yeah.
just like impossible.
I think I fizzled like once, but there's always like some little weird line that you can do that you get out of it. I just haven't had it come up to where Cultivators genuinely lost me a game where I'm trying. It's lost me games where I'm like, whatever, I'll do a 2-land cultivator, just sort of joke around. But like when I'm trying, cultivator wins. So
We built a cultivator calculator that cultivator actually has a somewhat simple math formula for calculating the expected number of lands. And there really is like an exponential increase in the amount of cards you get from, every it's not exponential, it's like quadratic.
yeah.
And so there's like a really huge difference between 2 and 4.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a
So that was game
question.
one.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
game one. And then
No. That's the question.
it's sort of more of an overarching question. I want to know how many of these matches / games that you
Mhm.
attribute Zern Orb being in your deck to being essential towards your win, as opposed to just having another rumble in that slot or something.
Yeah. So
It's
going
hard to
back,
just look at, I think, but yeah, if you're able to think through it.
I definitely had okay, before we do that,
Yeah,
let's
let's
finish the
finish. Yeah.
the energy game. So, um then in game 2, we had a hilarious board state where I had 3 amulets, um, and 1 land. I don't remember exactly how that happened. They had only a single land, and I was looking at the board state, and I had a cultivator in my hand, and I was like, "Well, they clearly have consign." It was like a hollowed fountain, you
Mm.
know? And I was looking at it, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna jam." Um, that's what I'm gonna do. And I play cultivator, and of course, it gets consigned. The reason I did this was I on the next turn would be able to play Splunking.
Okay.
Um, and uh, they they go to their turn and they play Solitude. This gives them an energy from their guide. They evoke Solitude, and then they play a land and they cast Wrath of Skies X=1.
You were in like really big trouble. It was terrible. I thought you had lost the game for sure. I'm like, yeah, okay.
They
Rough
they had no
beats.
board, right?
Uh-huh.
All they had was 2 lands, right? Of course, I only had 1 land.
Yes.
But you want to know what happened, Reed? I top decked
Spelunking.
Splunking.
So good.
Yes. I
Did
top
that
decked
chain into
Splunking.
escape shift or something? What was it?
I chained it into I had Scapeshift in my hand.
Okay.
I chained it into Mumble. Splunking top
Oh,
decked me into Mumble.
mobile's
It
so
was like one
good.
of the most ridiculous turns I had ever had, where I was like, we are so dead, and it went
Uh-huh.
from we're so dead to top deck Splunking, we are so back. Like
So good. Absolutely insane.
so crazy good. All right. Well, and then of course we split the finals.
And we split the
So
finals. It was a
yeah.
great stream.
Great challenge.
Follow twitch.tv/ALJJCE if you want to watch that stream, or just follow while Alice is offline. And you gotta catch those streams. It was very fun to watch it
Yeah.
stream.
We'll put the link in the show notes.
Yep.
It was a high energy, fun little time.
It was.
Okay,
And it's fun to
so
watch the both sides of like, I'm so dead versus we're so back. I'm so dead.
I
We're so
love
back.
dooming.
Great dooming / we're so back content. I loved it. It was very fun.
It's my stream. I get to do what I want. I will doom, and then I will be hype when we're back. So, okay.
Do we want to think about the question of the Zern Orb, or do we want to sort of just pass on other stuff? Because that might just be too complicated to get through.
No. I think I can answer it.
Okay.
So I genuinely think I had multiple games this challenge where I needed the infinite to win. Part of the difficulty of like untying the Zern Orb question is often all you really need to do to not die is just like gain 20 life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really hard to disentangle. Well, like, did you need to gain infinite life there? No, but a lot of the times facing down Ocelot Pride in the previous versions of the build, you had to do the infinite because they just had too many cats. Like you either needed to like Otawara all their cats, or they like absolutely were going to kill you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, well, I mean, yeah, they have 30 cats, but you're at 40 life. So did you need to loop? Probably not. And against energy, like my opponent did just like have 30. I think they had like 15 cats and 10 soul like warriors or something. Like it was ridiculous. And that will just kill you. Like no matter you're either like do the infinite by making infinite titans, or you have to gain enough life.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
Here's a concept I've been tinkering with, and
yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, so if you have more
No, go
to
ahead.
say. And this is probably a paper only concept. I don't think this would really be so fun to do online. It doesn't matter. Online versus paper is a boring discussion. I think that if we cut the Zern orb and left this list exactly the way it is, and put in pretty much any card, you could put in a Rumble, a Forest, it doesn't matter, that the list would not be too much worse than it is now. And you might ask, well, if we don't have a Zern orb, why are we still playing Aftermath Analyst? And, additionally, why are we still playing Scape Shift, which is close to an Aftermath Analyst card? I'll start with the Scape Shift thing. Even if the deck had no graveyard stuff, I still think Scape Shift is absolutely busted, and you should play 4, because actually getting to 6 or 7 mana for your GSC is extremely important, and extremely important to do quickly against pretty much every matchup in the meta right now. The meta is insanely fast. It's a Brood Scale and a Boros and a Prowess menagerie at the moment, and you need to be able to beat those things. And your deck is simply slower now. So being able to cast Scape Shift is important. Analyst, I would still play without the orb. And that might be a hot take, but I have 3 Rumbles, I have 4 Scape Shifts in my deck. Lands going to the graveyard is just a common, scenario for the deck. Not to mention, you mirror pull your Titan, mirror pull goes to yard. If you want to activate that again, or have access to that again, Analyst is really good for that. So I would still play this entire same exact list, not changing a singular thing, if Zern Orb did not exist. I think. I could be wrong. And I would just add like a Rumble. So the real question is like so then you might ask, okay, how are you going to win without Zern Orb? And I've thought about this, and my thoughts are, because we play Mycosynth, we are pretty easily able to assemble double Amulet in pretty much every scenario, because we have double Mycosynth. If we didn't, we wouldn't really be able to perform anything deterministic. However, I feel like there might be, and I could be wrong, there could not be, but there might be a line where every single scenario that you're in, or 98%, there's probably a line where you can Cultivator, accumulate a ton of stuff, using that stuff, so e.g. Titan, you go get a Mirror Pool, you Mirror Pool your Cultivator, and then after that you get to haste 2 Cultivator Colossuses, and with all the value accrue, you can make those Cultivator Colossuses approximately 15/15s, and maybe you deterministically win the game from there. Now, I had another thought just now. There's so many counteracting thoughts. But the other thought is, okay, what if my opponent has Thraben Charm, which is very common in the meta at the moment, or Solitude? Does the Cultivator still beat the Thraben Charm and Solitude axe? Because having both axes of, I'm going to either Mirror Pool my Colossus or use my graveyard, now you have to choose which one you're going to charm, is pretty nice. I like having that. So I wonder if there's any sort of line that beats Thraben Charm as well with Colossus, where you're like, all right, I'll put a billion Mirror Pool, I'll put a billion lands into play, cast Titan, and then try to Mirror Pool my Colossus. And I don't know that I can think of one that plays through Thraben Charm, or Solitude for that matter. I don't know.
What if they have 2 Solitudes? This is a thing that happens.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So here's what I'll say about this pipe dream.
Sure.
This pipe dream is only possible because of the configuration of the meta. I think the meta is never static. I think in 2 weeks this discussion is going to sound crazy.
Okay.
The thing is that Zern Orb really is quite important for beating Solitude. It just is, right?
It is. Yeah.
And right now there just isn't any Solitude in the meta. And it's also important for beating combo decks. There are lots of combo decks where you can summon 3 Titans, and they're going to be looking at it and they're like, well, I'll go to 2, you know, and then they'll go to 2 and then they'll kill you.
Yeah.
And the matchup currently that I feel the most, the most impacted by Zero and Orb is actually Brute Scale, because they totally can just like untap and kill you.
That's fair, but I feel like Brute Scale is pretty manageable with Bog and Boseiju, that you can shut them down to an extent to where they really can't come back without the orb.
No, that's not true. They totally can kill you in various ways, even if you have Bog and Boseiju. Like if they have enough K commands, they can do it. The game has gone long. They just hard cast Emrakul.
Here's another fun question. You're against Affinity, and they have 4 Tormod scripts. You are now post board, and you had to cut
4?
Some insane. Yeah, they play 4. That's stock. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You're not saying that they have 4 on the battlefield. You're saying they have 4 in their deck.
They have 4 in their deck. Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
You now had to sideboard. You bring in your stock ups, your Hercules, your Force, your Boseiju, the Bobble, whatever else you brought in, and you have so many cards to cut. So much so that you're like cutting into your main combo. You're cutting, stuff that sort of shouldn't be cut, but you're leaving.
Reed, I don't want to answer the Affinity question because I don't have a plan that beats Affinity well right now. So
yeah, Sam, it's complicated. It's just interesting.
Yeah. This needs more testing before I can give you an answer.
I really do want to know whether it's good or not against Affinity, and I just don't know. It goes both ways to where you're like, well, they could have a board state where, like, because my plan against Affinity is always Colossus, right? Colossus is just absolutely huge. But the Colossus on its own, there are definitely board states where it's not just going to win on its own. And a
lot of their board states are like that, yeah.
Yeah, and you just sort of need the Colossus to chain into the orb later down the line. So it's so hard to say, but the whole Affinity matchup is just an absolute mess at the moment, and I hope to solve it this week. Okay. We talked about no fire spouts. Did we talk about stock up enough? We like it against Boros.
Oh yeah, I guess we didn't talk about that. Yeah, the sideboarding plan for Boros is, or Jeskai Energy, is cut 3 Saga, bring in 3 stock up. Lord, that's clean. That's clean.
Great scenario.
Okay. Got to talk about Vexing Bauble.
Sure.
So, all right. I am Vexing Bauble's biggest fan. I love the card. It's like genuinely my second favorite card in the deck besides Cultivator. I feel like I can use it better than most players, where it's just like I see the line that's like, this Vexing Bauble is going to make me win in this specific way. But unfortunately, there just like aren't any free spells in this meta. And so I've been clinging to my Vexing Bauble, clinging to the old ways. And you're just not allowed to do that in deck building. You're just not. Reed sent me a message that was like, listen, you got to cut the Cultivate, you got to cut the Vexing Bauble. And I was like, all right, I will try it. And then I proceeded to like, win the challenge. So I think ultimately this is not the meta for Vexing Bauble. It shines in the Solitude. Honestly, I don't even really think it's that good into Solitude. I think it's kind of mid into Solitude. It shines into like Subtlety Force spam decks, which there just are none of. Oh, it's also good into Living End. And I feel like Living End has been getting hated out. I don't know if you agree with me.
I completely agree. Graveyards are just so hated on right now, as well as free spells in general. And Living End is just too clunky to beat Affinity. Like, it's simply too clunky. Or Brute Scale, for that matter, I think. I don't know.
Speaking of which, this list is only running 2 instances of Graveyard Hate. I've had a bunch of people ask me, like, why aren't you playing, like, 2 Soul Guide Lantern and a Bog? And it's like, that's a lot of sideboard space to dedicate. And I think 2 is enough for a lot of the games. And the graveyard decks are getting so destroyed by everyone running like 3 or 4 pieces of Graveyard Hate.
I honestly think Soul Guide's a pretty terrible card to have in the sideboard, but there is just so much graveyard stuff, or there was for a period to where I'm like, I just have to respect it with something. And that thing was Soul Guide. I don't know.
I like Soul Guide. I don't know why everyone's such a Soul Guide hater. Canister hates it. You hate it.
I do.
Like, it just like cycles and draws a card. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but once you've done that, you've essentially you only ever cycle and draw the card at the point where you've already lost the game, like, or you have to
It's not
Hail
true.
Mary to win the game.
You can cycle from ahead, right? Where you're like you're
Okay.
making a calculated gamble that like, well, I'm like missing like one piece from my like pretty deterministic win. I will give them this window to win the game through their graveyard and cycle the lantern. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe you're holding onto your lanterns too tightly. I also
Potentially.
think like a lot of the time, lantern hits the battlefield. You hit the thing that was going to kill you, and then you cycle it, and you're good.
Yeah. Let's take this moment and probably last bit of the show to talk
Mhm.
about, because we haven't talked about it yet, sort of our thoughts on the meta and why all of a sudden Titan seems so favored into the meta. I just like, I can't necessarily explain it completely, but we can take our best guesses at it and maybe try and explain why we think we're doing so well. Um,
Sure, yeah, you go first.
okay, so my thoughts are Boros changed a lot, and therefore a lot more decks were allowed into the meta. You can play so many things, and this is very apparent when I'm attempting to make my sideboard guide. I have to make like if I really wanted to make a complete sideboard guide, it'd be like 30 matchups, and I spend half an hour on each matchup. And then I have to change the guide after a week because I had 3 stock ups to the side. Anyway, many, 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 many decks that you can play because the card flage doesn't exist anymore, I think. And because of that, there are all these graveyard resurgences. Proactive plans got a lot better. So, and the reason for that being you don't have one defined, meta with 10 decks in it necessarily. You have, 25 decks you have to think about. Therefore, your sideboard cards are just a lot worse. And your decks that are like trying to control like Esper mid or whatever, or straight up control, don't perform very well, especially into Affinity. Affinity just basically says screw you to every single deck that is attempting to control the game, because it just has so many things that it's casting all the time and so many hedges against control. It does a really good job. Um, so you have this meta where everything's open. The top of the meta is Affinity, and so people just play proactive strategies. And I think the best proactive strategy is, Titan. It just simply is the best, or at least the most resilient. I don't think there is a proactive strategy that's quite as resilient as Titan that I can think of. Like Neoform, definitely not. Ruby, definitely not. Brute Scale is pretty resilient. So I think that actually does a good job at the moment. Like Brute Scale is a really good deck at the moment, and it also beats Affinity, which is huge for it.
Boros. Boros is a proactive,
Yeah,
very consistent deck.
very, very, very consistent, and also has, not to mention, the best colors for sideboarding of all time. Like, it is absolutely insane. Um, so these are my thoughts on the meta. Why does that make Titan good? I'm really not sure, but I guess Titan's just good at proactive strategies and non-controlling strategies. Though I have felt a lot better into control because I think in large part because Lotus is gone. Like, you don't top deck Lotus
Yeah.
anymore, so your turns aren't like heavily dependent on the buck stops here. I either win or I lose. Um, you also don't scape shift for Lotus anymore. You like have to take more responsible lines, which isn't always correct necessarily against stuff like control. Like back in the day when we used to have all these lines, sometimes you just had to go for the Hail Mary. But like nowadays, when you have to like play a responsible line that leaves 4 mana on the field and makes it so you can pay for your pact afterwards, just makes control so. I don't know why control is so much easier now. I really don't understand. But I beat it like the last 2 or 3 times that I played against it. No
They're
clue.
running a lot less Narset days. That was always the way that, like, this is the thing I say all the time, is the way
Yeah.
control beats you is Narsetless days.
Not to
But
mention that people just straight up aren't respecting Titan because, in a lot of
yes.
people's minds, the deck is dead. We're copium, we're copers. But, cope
Oh
away.
my
We had a
god.
great week. Yeah. I think it's been great. And not only that, it won a paper tournament too. The 4 seasons, that's a big deal. Like, it wasn't advertised on Twitter whatsoever, but that was a huge tournament. And it's pretty exciting that it won for me.
I honestly think this is the biggest reason. Like, people are just not running their hate. When before the ban, pretty much every sideboard was an Amulet Respecter, right? Like all of the competent people were Amulet Respecters. And now it's like I look at people's sideboards and they have like 1 Blood Moon. you know, and it's like, okay, well you're just not going to draw that. So yeah, the other aspect of it is like the strategy circle, the strategy triangle. You know, what beats aggro? The thing that beats aggro is combo,
Yeah.
and we are the most consistent, like the second fastest combo deck kind of in the format.
Yeah,
I
maybe a
don't,
lot of the
Neoform
Boros
isn't really.
players like switch to prowess or something potentially, and that's like more of an aggro deck. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, the Boros deck is very aggro coded right now too.
Sure.
That's part of the reason that we have such a good win rate into them is they have stopped playing Boros control and they have gone back to playing Boros aggro.
It was rough though at the start to find this because we were playing all these like slow lists that are, you know, attempting to utilize our old cards slash attempting to just be bad builds that don't really use scape shift very heavily. And those builds are not fast enough for Prowess, Boros, Brood Scale. They're just not fast enough to beat those
Yeah.
decks, I think. Affinity as well. So it was very disheartening to lose to all four of those decks that used to just be so easy uh, when we started. But luckily, we have persevered. And deck is just absolutely feeling insane. Pro Tour's coming up soon. If you're on the Pro Tour, honestly, I'd recommend playing it.
I
But
think Titan is the best deck in the format. Maybe it's
yes,
Affinity. Like
I
if Titan can figure out how to beat Affinity, then it is the best deck in the format.
Affinity Titan are definitely at the top in my books.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
and also people are just intimidated. Like we put out that GitHub, and the GitHub has these lines that are just like pretty rarely used. I think like the case where you have specifically two amulets, you have a Titan, you have no other mana, you have no other resources, you have to perform this exact line, and all these lands are in your deck at the time of doing this line, is just extremely rare in my opinion. As well as the escape shift. Like I don't even remember these lines because they haven't come up in any of my games to where I've been like, oh, I need to check the GitHub. I literally haven't performed them once. I've always had something else or haven't really needed to win that turn. So I think people are intimidated by these
I don't agree
lines.
with you on this, by the way.
Go ahead.
Like, I very often think, oh, this is the line from the GitHub. How can I adapt it to this purpose?
Uh,
And like, I am able to adapt it. Like, I might have one land that's like in my graveyard, so I need to do this like slight change to the line. But
Maybe I'm just
I have
lucky
them
and it'll come
memorized.
up
It's
more
useful for
often in the
me.
future. Yeah, yeah. I think if you really prodded me, I could probably get there, but I
I
have
think
been
you're
thinking
also
about it often.
you're missing the point of the GitHub. The point of the GitHub is to be a something that you have in your head that tells you when you're in a winning position,
Mm.
right? Like I often am looking at like, oh, I'm in this winning position. Like I have the win here. One of the things about like solving chess puzzles is like if you know there is a win, it is so much easier to find the win.
Here's my
Whereas
counter
like if you're
argument
like,
to that.
okay,
If you're I worry that if I'm always looking for these I'm in this positions though, that I will get tunnel
mhm.
vision and I won't see alternative lines that deal with I don't know, Mycosynth or simply, putting a Titan on the board. That I'll be so heavily like looking into am I in that winning position that I will forget that just generally accruing value with the deck is probably the best, like probably the thing that wins me the most games recently is just accruing value, doing what's correct, choosing the better of two very good things, which is really hard sometimes, and is really making the deck difficult to play on occasion because you're like, man, both of these things are really good. I don't know which is more right, like you just have to have experience and knowledge, and that aspect of it has been very fun for me. But I do agree with you that it is important to see when you're in a line and also have a particular baseline that you can compare your current situation against. Be like, oh, in this case, I even have more resources than I would in the baseline line. So, I definitely have the win here, and then maybe a little more even.
So I think your counter argument is correct, by the
Okay.
way. Like it is a valid critique. And you should be looking for like, you know, maybe I don't have the full deterministic win here, but like I will put 3 Titans on the board and that'll be enough, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that you have to understand that, this is especially true online. It's still true in person. Playing Magic is a game where you have to play really fast. like especially when we're playing a combo deck like this that takes like thousands of game actions to win the game, you need to be speedy or you will like go to time and get a draw in person, right?
Right.
Like um and so I think having this thing that's running back in the back of your head where you don't have to analyze the position to be like, am I won? You just know this is the position that's outlined in the GitHub. I've won. You know, I don't know.
So, and I think a lot of people will be intimidated by all these concepts in general. If you're at the end of the podcast, I mean, you're probably a really good player here, you know, like, or at least you want to be. You will be in at least a week or two, and that people are intimidated by this, and therefore the play rate is just going to go down. Essentially, people's mindsets here are like, if I can't play the deck perfectly, I don't want to play the deck at all. You know, like it's an ego thing. Like the deck really is the best in the format, and probably would be better than any other choice they could pick. And maybe they're not perfect on the deck, but they would still probably win more with it than pretty much any other choice they could make, especially if they have experience with Titan. And particularly like thinking when they play Titan, you know, like it is more of a thinking game. And you really have to get in the trenches and think, well, like be very critical, like, oh, what is this compared to this? Is this better? And honestly, just being able to have executive function and make the decision. Some people just get absolutely frozen. And by the time they make the decision, they're panicked. And that is problematic. Or they have a headache or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very empathetic way of looking at it. I think you're right. I'm too like chess player brained, and so you know, uh, I sometimes like will miss the forest for the trees in this case. Yeah.
The big thing with Titan is you really got to be playing as if you are in a 2007 Barnes and Noble, and for some reason there are trees growing within this Barnes and Noble. The vibes are impeccable. You know, you got a nice hot drink, you know, next to you. Your opponent is like absolutely vibing with you. That is the proper way to play Titan. You know, just truly you are a
Yeah.
wise tree in a Barnes and Noble. I don't know how to describe this any better, but it makes it much more fun when you're playing. I'll tell you that. All right.
All
Well,
right. Cool.
we're in the weeds. We should probably wrap it up.
Should we open chat? Oh no, we do that after the podcast, right?
Yeah, we do it after. But thank you so much for listening to our podcast listeners. We've had many listeners recently, and that's been awesome. I don't think that we're really going to do any revenue on the actual like podcast side of things unless it gets really big. But I don't even know if the market's big enough for that. However, if you would like to support, even if you don't need a cyborg guide, grab the Patreon, grab a cyborg guide. It's a $15 a month subscription, and I'll be posting things there that will blow your mind. Let's go. All right. See you guys in the next one. Stay greedy. Peace.
Peace.